Yeah, that's real, all right.
The show you're tuned into right now was put together by students and staff enrolled in the broadcasting courses in the radio television department at San Joaquin Delta College.
What's your life like?
Tom Argonda, Alex Solon,
Haha! What am I doing here?
Unknown Space Radio.
Haha! It's getting hot in here. I would appreciate some help here. Have a nice life.
Unknown Space Radio, Season 2, Year of the Fool. Thanks for listening and supporting college radio.
Welcome to Perfect World Theory, Episode 8, I think. Would you like to take it from here?
So this episode is just kind of like a contemplation about the kind of like the what ifs in our life. Like it's discussing the life that we wanted and we didn't get, or the things that we wanted to happen in our life that didn't happen and stuff like that.
Basically, what may be missing from our lives, what never even came in the first place, what's sort of corrupting our lives, just everything we could do to perhaps
Make our lives better.
theorize a perfect world, I suppose. That's why it's called Perfect World Theory. It's, again, what's missing and maybe what's corrupting it, and pointing out these things that may, make our lives better, I suppose. Not that our lives are god awful. It's just maybe a perfect world exists and it's right behind our blind eye, I suppose.
Yeah, so my first question I have for you, Tom Argonda, is what is your biggest what if?
That's a good question because I know the answer, but I'm not sure if I'm even allowed to say it on air. Because it's sort of like, that's a good question because it's something my friend and I talk about a lot. Sort of like, and maybe this answers your question or not, but it's sort of, kind of, what's it called? Butterfly effect? Where it's like, when you think about time, it's maybe I could tap my desk and now we're in a new outcome, a new reality. You know what I'm saying?
So, are you saying your biggest what if is constantly taking actions and thinking what would have happened if I did or did not do that?
Yes, it's sort of like going back to talking about that friend. What if, because how we became friends is, I just complimented a drawing that was on his binder. What if I never did that? What if, see, I have like specific events in my head, but it's mostly just that. Like, what if I did something different? Where would I be now? What if somebody else did something different? Where would they be now? It's sort of like that, just figuring out or trying to understand maybe different outcomes, I suppose. And maybe that's for the good or not for the good, but it's just something I'm really interested in, and that's why I constantly talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And do you feel that way too?
I would say yeah, but I think I have more concrete what ifs.
I do too, but I can't say them, man. But I want to hear yours now. What are those what ifs?
Being a person who dwells on the past a lot, I'm constantly living and thinking about, a lot of what ifs.
I definitely know that, and that's exactly where mine entire what if stems from. It's dwelling on the past.
But I think there are two like major life-changing things that I've thought of before. That is like, what if the opposite happened? And I'd say the first one is when my parents got divorced. You know, there's obviously the whole you have to kind of like pick a side, but not really. In this case, I really didn't get the chance to pick a side. It was like my mom had promised me that she would take me with her to go live with her in New York. And then my dad came here to Stockton. And I just kind of think what would have happened and where would my life have gone if I went with my mom rather than my dad? I feel like both are pretty terrible options.
But do you think there's a better option?
And
is what I'm wondering.
I think I'm living the better option.
Yeah, and it's not that good to begin with.
It's not that good to begin with. And my second what if is when I was in high school, I really, really, really wanted to get into the military. And basically, I didn't plan for school after high school. I planned to just come out and go straight into the military. And so my senior year is when I actually started to like try to do that. And I started talking to a recruiter and all that stuff. And long story short, I didn't get in because I never got cleared for medical, and he was asking for things I didn't have and stuff that I had already given him, and I waited for about a year and a half, and I was like, okay. A year and a half outside of high school. And I was like, all right, I'm done waiting. I'm just going to try something else.
I'm just going to be a video editor.
Yeah. And it makes me think, like, what would have happened if I would have gone in? Where would I be now?
And how constantly, because like my what ifs and stuff, just that whole string theory, that might not even, that's not string theory, butterfly effects type time thingy. Because again, we are people who do dwell on the past. And more now recently have I had some crazy nostalgia for the past. So it's been eating me up like crazy, especially in quarantine, because it's like,
all you can do is just think.
This is not the best reality we're in. This is not the perfect world. And maybe a perfect world doesn't exist. Maybe those are big words, but going back to, because we are both people who dwell in the past, how do you deal with those thoughts? Do you do your best to ignore them?
I can't.
Or
I'm going to be honest. I can't. I have no way of dealing with them. I just sit there and think and get sad.
That's exactly how I feel. I'll spend a very long time thinking about it. But at the same time, it's kind of, it makes me feel terrible, but there's something therapeutic about it. And maybe not even in your situation, because that past you were talking about, what if which parent you went to? Because that's not, like, the past I dwell on are like the good memories. I'm pretty sure we've established that somewhere along the way. That
you focus on the past that is good, and I focus on the past that is bad.
But no, in my situation, it's kind of therapeutic to think about it, because it's, it's cool that I got those experiences, man.
Yeah. See, for me, it's a lot more harmful to think about it, because then I just relive it, and I just think like things could have been so much better. But I will admit, like I said, I think both options, I think of my like biggest what ifs, I think I'm living probably the better option. Because even though I didn't get into the military, like I've lived through a lot of life-changing things that I probably never would have if I went to the military. I've met a lot of people who have changed my life, and I've gone through a lot of things that have changed my life. And like living with my dad instead of my mom, I don't know where I would have ended up with my mom, but I can only guarantee that it was not good. I probably wouldn't have gone through school. I wouldn't have been so focused on school. And I probably definitely wouldn't be nearly in as much good shape as I am, as much as like I claim that things are bad. And are you living the life that you think your parents intended you to have?
Again, that's a good question. And I think it's a good question because that's really hard for me to say. I would like to think so. Because, I'd say so. Assuming, because my parents are good parents. Therefore, I think they would only want good for me, obviously. And it's like, everything they do for me doesn't have a negative effect on me. The negative effects in my life come strictly from me. Like, more than half the time, I am the root of my own problems. Therefore, I would say, sure, I think so. And I'd hope so. And I know they worry about me every now and then just because I'll go, you know,
A week without sleeping.
a week without sleeping, or I won't leave my room for a very long time. But I don't know. I just hope they know that has nothing to do with them. Would you say you're living the parents your life wanted for you, living your question, but to you?
I don't think so, because basically, what?
Isn't that hard for you to say though? Isn't that hard to say just because, like, I mean, maybe we've talked about this before.
It isn't hard to say, but it is hard to think about.
I don't know. I would imagine it would be hard to say just because they aren't really in your life. They're not really involved in your day to day.
Tom, that's what I was going to talk about.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I don't think so, because in a perfect world, they would never have gotten divorced. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have struggled growing up, and they wouldn't have done the things they did. They wouldn't have left me, and they wouldn't have like basically turned their back on me. And I don't think neither one of them know like the mental struggles that I've gone through. And even like in attempts to try to talk to them about it, they just don't get it. So, and I don't know if maybe that stems from what they've done in the past or if it is external. But either way, I don't think I would have struggled and gone through the things that I've gone through if this was the life they wanted me to have.
But because, again, they aren't involved in your day-to-day, isn't that hard to say, to even think about the life they wanted you to have? Because at this point, with parents that, maybe I'm putting this harshly, but I mean, they abandon you. With parents that abandon you, at that point, it's not even about what they think, man. And maybe, I mean, I will never know your experience, but at this point, obviously, it's about the life you want. The life you want for you. And it's about obtaining that. And, question still applies, like, what is the life they wanted? But hopefully you realize one day, and maybe you've realized already, that doesn't matter what they wanted for you.
Yeah, no, I do realize that. That's why I don't care what they think. That's why I don't care if I do something that they might necessarily not like, because it's my life. They made it very clear that they don't want to be a part of it, you know? They made it very clear that they will choose other people over me. And that's fine, because I will choose other people over them. And I will...
We're going to take a short PSA break, but we'll be back here on Delta College Radio 93.5 KWDC.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes? Their age? The way they speak? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a single father of 2 who works 3
part-time jobs and still can't put enough food on the table?
Or maybe a mother who cleans offices at night,
hoping to find meeting leftovers to take home to her hungry family.
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
I think I'm the best version of me right now.
Me too. I feel that, dude.
A lot of what went into becoming this better me that I currently am is picking out my flaws, I suppose. see what I can do to suppress that. And honestly, I've known this since I was like a child, but I have like mild sadistic tendencies. Like, I don't know, because it's really led to my detriment at a lot of times, where maybe something I say will mildly annoy somebody or even hurt them. And this is not me now. I tried not to do this, but in high school, that was a lot of the rude things I would do. And that was probably the least best version of me, the opposite of me now. Because those, I don't know. I have mild sadistic tendencies, and that sucks for people around me, I suppose.
I feel like for me, growing up, I was just a very angry person for no reason. And I think that stems from my parents and from my living situation at the time, during high school. And like, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that happened after I graduated that really broke me down as a human being. And I think I needed to go through all that stuff. I needed to go through a lot of hardship to really figure out who I was and become that better person. Because I totally agree with you there that now I'm the best like version of me. And I feel like maybe that's something that's super cliche and that's something that a lot of people say in the present. But I think that just comes with growth, you know, and maturity.
Yeah, you're supposed to be the best version of you right now.
And I
especially
say
past
that,
high school.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to say that about a year ago, that this is the best me. Like, I probably would have said, like, the past me was the best me.
See, if I said, because if you asked me this question in, like, high school, like, are you the best version of you? I probably would have said yes, and that probably would have strictly been out of ego. But asking me it now, I think is totally just me being real. I think I am the best version of me. I've acquired so many hobbies and I'm so better at things. It's hard to say I'm not, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like we both can agree on this. We still have a lot of flaws and there's still a lot of things we can work on, but I feel like now I'm a lot more of a chill person than I was before. I'm very understanding and a lot more patient than I was before. And that I know I'm impatient, and being able to say that I'm more patient now is actually pretty like I take pride in that, you know? And like, I care about people a lot more than I did before, and I still feel like I'm super selfish. But at the same time too, like when I really think about it, I'm not at all selfish, and people point that out about me, that I'd rather please someone else or make sure someone else gets like what they need before I do.
That is my next goal, because I can't say I'm like that at all, unfortunately. I mean, not that I'm willing to step on someone to get what I want, but I think again, this is a flaw of mine. I kind of always come first in my scenarios and situations, which, I don't know. Again, not that I'm stepping on anybody. I'm always going to make sure someone else is fine, I suppose. But, you know, that ability to make sure someone else is... Ooh, slap my keyboard. That, like, to make sure someone... You know, you put someone else first before you. That's nice and really admirable.
See, and I think I've always put myself last.
A perfect world does exist, and, well, there's a perfect world in our mind. And that's a lot of this, what we're talking about in this episode. What it takes to get to that perfect world. But at the same time, maybe it is all just fantasy. And maybe we're wasting our own times to even try to get to that. Maybe filmmaking's not for me. Maybe I'm supposed to, I don't know, be a businessman or something like that. I don't know. But maybe our fantasies are just not what we're gonna get.
It's just maybe that. It's just fantasy.
Maybe it's just fantasy. Maybe we'll never get what we want. Where am I going with that?
But we have to try.
We do have to try, and that's a lot of what it's gonna make this life worth it. But at what point do you think should we give up on our fantasies? I suppose.
I think if you're giving up on a fantasy, then it's just a fantasy, you know? But if it's something you're actively pursuing, then it's not a fantasy, it's a dream. And I think a dream is a lot more achievable. I think that's the difference between dreams and fantasies is dreams are achievable.
And maybe that's what I meant. When do you give up on your dreams? Like, obviously, like I said, maybe I want to be a filmmaker. Maybe I want to fall in love, move to Florida or something. I don't know. But maybe I'm also 35 years old. When do I give up on it? I guess. And there's not a definite answer I'm looking for. Because I'm still going to be chasing my dreams regardless. Maybe these dreams, because obviously I'm still chasing them. I've been chasing them for a while and I'm going to keep chasing them. But eventually, maybe I won't get it. And that's when it's going to burden me. And this perfect world that exists behind my eye, just in my head, maybe, again, it's only fantasy. I suppose that's when I give up. When it becomes more of a burden than a dream. Do you believe a perfect world is achievable?
When I think of a perfect world, I essentially think of a world without conflict. Do I think that's achievable? Not really. Humans are pretty much programmed to be selfish, and that leads to stuff like greed and power and all that. And frankly, I don't think I would want to live in a perfect world anyways. That sounds really boring to me, and there's not really a thrill in living a life without any kind of tension.
Yeah, I slacked off on getting a person in time to do this. So, do you like poetry, listener? I could read you some poetry. Here's a poem by Shel Silverstein called Wavy Hair. I thought that I had wavy hair until I shaved. Instead, I find that I have straight hair and a very wavy head. Pretty cool. Do you think so? I think so. But I feel like I could relate to this poem. I just feel like I have a wavy head. Here's an excerpt from a little poem that Alex is probably going to read on the next episode. But if you want to listen to it, I'm willing to read it. It's a poem written by me, by the way. It's called As You Move Through Time. No drum fire, this is drug abuse. Manage your terror and move on with your youth. Fight a war with an enemy in disguise. Walk out the door and pray it's not a suicide. Don't you know the ground you stand is haunted? Don't stand your ground when you know you're not wanted. Throw a fist to the shadow of circumstance. Say goodbye and pray you're not taken back.
Unknown Space Radio. Tom Margonda. Alex Salon. Unknown Space Radio. Season 2, Year of the Fool has been a production of KWDC 93.5 LPFM, Delta College Radio. This program is made possible by listeners like you. Programming is produced by the students, staff, and faculty of San Joaquin Delta College's Radio Television Department. It is supported by the Delta College Department of Arts, Humanities and Multimedia, the Career Technical Education, and Workplace Development Office, and the State of California. Thank you for listening. Tom Margonda. Alex Salon. Unknown Space Radio, Season 2, Year of the Fool.